NASA's Perseverance rover may have just taken one of the most important steps in the search for life beyond Earth. Joining us with more on this groundbreaking discovery is Dr. Joe Carson, professor at the College of Charleston's Department of Physics and Astronomy. Good to have you back.
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so the Perseverance rover, when was that launched?
So it arrived there in 2021, which means it would have launched about 9 months earlier than that, somewhere around that time.
9 months, that's quite the journey.
It is quite the journey.
So it's been there for several years.
Yeah.
And what was the recent discovery that it made?
So it's been there. So the recent discovery that was made was in a dry riverbed where it was exploring patterns on rocks. And one of the main purposes of the Perseverance rover is to search for signs of possible ancient life on Mars. And we know that Mars could potentially support life today, but in the past it was a very friendly environment for life. We know there were liquid water oceans, there was weather, there was a temperate climate. So what it found in this dry riverbed were these patterns on rocks, and those they're patterns that are left over by chemical reactions. And on Earth we know that that kind of pattern is a result of chemical reactions from microbial life. So very, very small, things like bacteria, they leave behind these patterns on rocks. And so on Earth, that's our explanation. That's how we know patterns like that are created. So that certainly suggests or points to potential ancient life on Mars, at least microbial life. There are other ways you could possibly make those patterns that are not easy, but it could have been done without life. So this is not a case where you would necessarily rule
conclusively say there was life on Mars.
But that's one of the reasons why they're continuing to explore Mars, to try to build up this evidence to see if this is just an anomaly or this is part of a pattern of seeing evidence for life.
Why are scientists so fascinated with Mars? Why do they want to know so badly if Mars could be inhabitable?
I would say
habitable, I should say.
I would give two sides of it. One is a scientific side and one is sort of a romantic side.
Yes.
On the scientific side, Mars used to resemble Earth a lot. So let's say like 2 billion, 3 billion years ago, the environments on the surface of Mars, the environment on the surface of Earth would have been very similar.
Really?
In terms of friendliness to life. Again, there was liquid water oceans, there was heat sources.
H2O, so actual
liquid water,
really?
Probably liquid salt water.
Okay.
So there's a huge amount of understanding why did life develop on Earth and not on Mars, or did life develop on Mars? And then it disappeared over time. The other reason why I think of it as a romantic reason is that people have been writing poems and songs about Mars, all the way going back to the ancient Greeks and previous. So it's been part of our collective culture for a long time.
So based off of its current state, could you manufacture a situation to make it habitable once again?
Yes. You could do that.
Could you?
It would be very difficult.
Okay.
Basically what you would do is you could generate an atmosphere on Mars, for example, by if you, Mars's polar ice caps are made of carbon dioxide and water ice. If you were to put a large energy source, that would turn into a gas and that would create an atmosphere. That might seem like how, engineering an atmosphere might seem very difficult, but if you think about it on Earth, we've partly engineered our atmosphere due to things like climate change, like we're putting carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. So you could do it on Mars. It would be certainly the kind of thing that would take maybe 1,000 years to do.
Oh, wow. And a lot of money.
And a lot of money. But it's technologically possible.
It is.
To make that.
Have they tried something similar on Earth? Because I know that they create those dome communities and things like that to almost simulate what it would be like if you were to transplant life on Earth to a situation that would be more Martian.
Yeah.
So
there are, there's things like creating like dome environments on Mars where you could transport life. To be honest, there are some life forms on Earth, things that we call extremophiles that live in extreme conditions and can thrive, that would survive and prosper on Mars today.
Really?
For example, there's some bacteria that live inside rocks, and all they need is sort of an underground heat source. And they actually eat as their food the chemical ingredients that's in the ground. Some microbes like that, they could actually survive on Mars today, and they would probably reproduce and prosper. That's very different than you and me or putting a farm there.
Yeah, right.
But it does tell you something about also how tough life is.
Yes, indeed. Well, we know it's tough on Earth, so it's even tougher on Mars. So what is the next step then? What are scientists hoping to further discover as Perseverance continues to traverse that planet?
So it's looking for, I mean, again, to see if there's more evidence for past life. And one of the hope is also, one of the things that it's doing is to try to prepare for hopefully a follow-up mission that actually brings some of those samples back to Earth.
Okay.
Because it's wonderful to be able to look at them remotely with this sort of a rover, you know, it's almost like a drone. But really, if we could bring those samples back to Earth, we could really study them and better understand them. And there are plans to try to do that, but a lot of those plans are uncertain right now due to budget questions.
Sure, yeah.
But that would be one of the next steps, is to bring those samples back and eventually to put astronauts also on Mars.
Fantastic. So interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Joe Carson. Really appreciate it. We'll be back in 2 minutes.